What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a mixed martial artist, an entrepreneur, and the current XFN Fights and Combat Night MMA Women's Featherweight Champion. She's the one, the only, Kat Lights Out Nelson. Kat, what's going on?
Hi, Adam. How are you?
Doing good, man. I mean, a lot of people are going like champ, double champ. This is and they do it in the same promotion theoretically. Connor with Cage Warriors first, obviously doing it again in the UFC. We have Amanda Nunes, who's a two-division champ, but not many people do it in different promotions consecutively, and that's the distinction that you, Mademoiselle, absolutely have.
Right, yeah. I got the opportunity to fight for XFN, and it was going to be just a regular fight, and I guess they wanted to change it to a title fight about 2 weeks out, and I was like, why not? This is what I want to do in the UFC one day. So we went through with it. I won, and then I was immediately offered the featherweight title fight for Combat Night 3 weeks later, and I didn't take any damage in my fight. It was, I think, a minute 27 seconds of the first round, where I finished it, and so I took that, and yeah, I'm both. I'm the both XFN and Combat Night featherweight champ.
And I mean that's an amazing distinction to have. But with training, that's back to back, fight camps and what have you. After the first fight, where you're kind of planning on maybe kind of it's a big fight camp, at least 4, maybe even 6 weeks if you or 8 weeks if you have a full camp, and you might want some downtime because obviously there's training, there's regular life, there's weight cutting and what have you, and to do it all again in such a short period of time can be arduous, but you handled it pretty well.
Right, yeah. I had a full fight camp, about 8 weeks for the XFN fight. And I told myself, I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm going to go drinking. I'm going to do whatever for about a week, which I usually do. I usually take about a week off after my fights, depending on if I take any damage or if I need to do anything after post fight. But yeah, so when I got the offer for the Combat Night featherweight title, I took about like 2 days to think about it, and I talked to my coach, and we knew the weight cut was going to be easier because I was already there. I already had a jump start. Like I said, I didn't take any damage, and we just decided to do it. Why not? So yeah, I didn't get that week of indulging, but I went straight back into fight camp, and now I've had about a week off since my Combat Night fight, and I'm going into another week, but I might return soon.
Whoa. I mean, yes, that sacrifice of not having, a little bit of a siesta, but then you got another piece of gold, and if you're here, and not wanting to be a champion, it's almost like there's so many sacrifices that, a combat sports athlete, an athlete, it doesn't matter whether you're an athlete, academic, or what have you. There are things that you have to kind of heed to make sure that your career goes forward, right? So, like, no, you didn't get to, go ahead and party hardy, but I mean, another title isn't bad.
Right, yeah, and I've I've been I've only been doing this for about 3 years now, and there's a lot of things that I've missed out on. There's a lot of experiences that normal people experience that I haven't been able to because I'm constantly maintaining my weight. Every day, instead of going to work, I go to the gym, and it's because I have this big dream of going to the UFC, just because if you follow my gym, which is Fusion X-Cel, we
Hmm.
have a lot of competitive fighters in there, and a lot of them want to go to the UFC
Right.
or in the UFC and competing already. So just being surrounded by that, my goal is to want to go there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, go continue on. I'm agreeing with you.
No, I was just gonna say, so yeah, so I've missed out on a lot of opportunities and experiences that I wish I could have. Like, for example, right now, I live in Orlando and we have Halloween Horror Nights going on, and that's something that I can't do because I'm gonna have to walk, and that's just a physical
Hmm.
fitness that I don't want to spend walking. I rather save it for my training in the morning and that sleep that I'm gonna lack the next day. It's just little stuff like that that we don't get to experience because we want to, we have a dream larger than reality, a lot of us. So yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. Daniel Courtney Sanders says, "Oh my God, we're live with the Homie Woods representing Inglewood, California. Inglewood always up to good because we get a bad rap with actually a lot of the hip hop songs. Inglewood always up to no good and what have you. But like when you think about it, there are people that maybe didn't grow up with parents or one parent household or whatever that are fabulous mothers and fathers. They're doctors, lawyers, sports athletes, and what have you. So I kind of dispel that Inglewood always up to no good. Hey, I'm good. I'm kind of good, right? I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I have not been to California, and I would like to one day, and I know you guys have a lot of good food over there, but yeah,
Yes.
I haven't been.
Oh, sis, like when you come, I'd say when. Now let's put that out there.
I
When you
will. I
come,
definitely will. I have
yeah,
to travel.
absolutely. And we got good training too. I mean, and it's crazy because obviously you know the Gracies when they moved to Torrance, and we had Benny the Jet in kickboxing, Arquidez, and and then Hollywood, just Chuck Norris and all that, what
Yeah.
have you. But we've kind of evolved, into kind of a mecca, outside, much like Florida, right? We have the beaches, and it attracts people, the best Muay Thai people from Thailand, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, British catch wrestling, all of these different facets, Japanese karate and what have you. So it's cool, but the evolution of the sport, right, is
Right.
there's amazing and top level fighters, gyms, coaches everywhere. Like Colorado's a hotbed, obviously the
Hmm.
Olympic Training Center. There's Elevation Fight Team and a litany of other gyms. There's Maine's got something. Florida's just it's almost crazy because Florida used to be a pro wrestling hotbed, right? In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and I think about like the 80s into the 90s, it became a hotbed for the combat sports of like jujitsu and MMA. So it's kind of cool how it's kind of flip flop.
Yeah. The sport is always evolving. Literally every day there's something new, or every fight there can be something new. We see Masvidal with the flying knee. Like, everyone started practicing that after he threw that. But yeah, it would be an honor to go to any really good gym around the states, around the world, and just get to train. And that's something that I'd really like to do, especially going into becoming a professional. I'm going to be traveling more, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And every visit I make to compete or just train, I would like to get as much experience with cross training with those really good gyms.
I love it, and Lance Vader says, Woods, shout out to you, good brother. But what's kind of cool because traditional martial arts, even in the early kind of inception of the UFC and generations before it, it was kind of frowned upon, and even still in some circles, right? Like open mat is cool, when your coach
Yeah.
is there, but then when you get invited by somebody you're rolling with to another gym,
Yeah.
pandemonium ensues.
Yeah, that stuff is always like, for me it's like a hit or miss. Like, sometimes they'll be really nice to you, or sometimes they'll really try to take your head off. And so that's why I just go in there and I be myself, whichever gym I'm invited to, because I don't know what their intentions are until, I get a round in at least or two, and then that's when I'll turn it on or I'll keep it chill.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to feel it out. Which, I mean, we talked about a lot of the sacrifices that you've made, and kind of touched on, the sacrifices that you've made, in the 3 years in your pursuit of MMA glory. But
Mhm.
let's kind of take it back a little bit. What was it about, the combat sports aspect of life, that brought you in?
Well, I actually used to practice Taekwondo when I was younger for a while. Um, and yeah, I had divorced parents too, and like a lot of things were up and down. But I always practiced. My dad was actually an owner and master of a school. So I practiced until I was a teenager, I guess. And I started getting into school sports, soccer, softball, basketball, and all that, and kind of just went away from the martial arts. But I always had that instilled into me, because like when in a traditional martial art like Taekwondo, you don't just learn how to kick or punch. You learn a lot of morals and values. And so, yeah, I went through a party phase after high school and got a little crazy. Then I wanted to get back into working out and changing my lifestyle. And as I was improving in working out and getting physically fit again, I knew I could do something more with my body
Mhm.
and my mindset. I needed to be challenged and I needed to be in some type of sport. And I went back to my roots and I chose martial arts. And at first, I started with just like cardio, kickboxing, boxing classes. And as I kept practicing, I heard about fight gyms and how to compete. And there was just one day where I went to my gym, Fusion X-Cel Performance. It's located in Ocoee, Florida. And I never turned back. That was about 3 years ago. And I started fighting with them. I had 3 kickboxing fights. I have 5 MMA fights now. And I've only lost one MMA fight, my first one. And yeah, the sky is, I want to say limitless. Like I can't
Yeah.
can't see the end.
No, I love it. Which, that's a kind of cool little nuance that you have, right? Because a lot of,
Yeah.
you know, uh, you train with, a lot of your teammates where maybe their parents, their significant other are kind of like, why would you do that? Like, oh my gosh. But like, what was your dad's reaction when you're like, I'm sure he was probably a little bit, more concerned about the party phase and undoing all the work that you had done up in your life up until then. But
Yeah.
like, what was your dad's reaction when you kind of came back?
I think everyone, not just my dad, but everyone that cared for me was kind of concerned and a little worried. But I think the lifestyle change that I was making to better my life, and in the past 3 years, I've definitely become a better person outside of the gym and inside the gym. I think that they were happy for me, seeing that I was changing whole lifestyle. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy, right? Whether you're, working out vigorously, you have a cheat day, or the nuances, like if you like Amish or Mennonite communities, right? They kind of are like that, but then they go out into the real world to kind of experience it, and then they have the decision: do they stay in the ways that they were brought up in, or do they go out to us, what they call the English, and you kind of need that, because otherwise, you know, being kind of so disciplined for so long can almost mess with your psyche.
right, yeah, yeah. That's why I choose to, I really listen to my body, and I really listen to myself. And there are days or weeks where I tell myself I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna see how I feel, and then I'm going to plan my day instead of having a rigorous schedule ahead of me that I have to follow, because that's not how life works. It's not. I don't want it to be a routine. I don't want it to feel like a routine. And but yeah, I do train a lot. I do train a lot, and I do, especially after fights. Like I said, like right now, I'm taking a little break. I gained my weight back. I'm eating what I want to, and it's just necessary because you do need that time to reset your body. You can't just work, 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 and then not do anything, have no recovery and reset. Like I said, reset yourself. And when I do that, I feel like I come back to the gym even better.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, which Goro187 actually chiming over on Twitch. He says, according to Woods, you need to tell her anything she could do in the gym, you can do 1% better.
For sure.
Yeah, I know. I like it, but I can't tell Kat anything if, again, second generation martial artist, a double champ in 2 different promotions and whatever. I will merely suggest, but yeah, I think you got it. I think you got it, Kat.
I think
right?
you get 1% better every day in the gym. So yeah, and I know that, and that's why I'm very consistent when it comes to training. When it comes to my fight camps, it's usually more catered to how I'm going to fight or who I'm going to fight and what the game plan is, and we isolate off of that. But usually when I'm off fight camp, I like right now, for example, I want to focus on my. If you've seen my fights, I'm clearly comfortable striking.
Yes.
But I really want to focus on my jiu-jitsu. I am blue belt, and I want to focus a lot on my wrestling. And I have a camp set up. I'm going to be training with some wrestlers from my old high school, the varsity team.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's going to help me so much. And I'm going to dedicate a lot of time, I think, for the rest of the year towards that. And then we'll see what happens. I don't want to fight for the rest of the year. I've had 3 fights this year, so
Yeah. Which and not a lot of people are getting fights, both in 2020 and 2021. So that's a pretty awesome distinction. And Gora says, make work your arch nemesis, and give it the crazy eye of intensity, and say, according to what's about to learn today, as you slam down the Gora. Right, and this is Goro from Mortal Kombat. This is the ultimate final boss, and in his description 187, which is the code for killing. So Goro kills people. So, and if she drinks the blood of the fallen enemies to absorb their soul as she prepares for Mortal Kombat. Yeah, and here's a pro tip.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
to just go around and fight people.
Hey, you know what? That's actually one of my favorite video games from the original Nintendo system. It was called River City Ransom, and yes, it is a direct ripoff from Double Dragon. But the cool thing about it is almost what I live my life by, where you kick people's ass and you collect coins, and then you eat sushi.
Oh, you eat sushi in it?
Yeah, that's it. I never got past the second level. And remember, like old school Nintendo, there's no saving points or whatever. That was another 10 to 15 years away. So if you lost, you just lost. Or if your mom was doing the, which my mom did, vacuuming and whatever, and unplugged it, like all of my work would be done. So I'm just saying.
That sucks. I grew up with a GameCube and a Nintendo DS. So,
which what was your go-to of both GameCube and or the Nintendo DS?
I played a lot of Pokemon. So yeah.
which okay, here's the thing. Which cartridge of Pokemon did you have? Did you have the yellow? Did you have the red?
I had the Sapphire, the blue one. Ooh. So it was like the aqua water Pokemons and all that. But I used to be way more into that stuff, and I still like that stuff. Like I enjoy anime and all those like animations and stuff, but I don't play video games anymore like that. I kind of want to, but I just don't have the time.
No, 100%. it's a selfish sport, right? Because like if you're not, all in, when and it's a crazy, it's a paradox, right? Where,
Yeah.
if you're focusing, like, in a sense, right, there's been never been more money in combat sports, right? You can even do jujitsu and get paid to do jujitsu around the world and teach
Mhm.
seminars and what have you. And then obviously, whether Junior Dos Santos just made his pro wrestling debut last week, Cain Velasquez, obviously there's UFC, Bellator, One Championship,
Yeah.
WWE, AEW, and what have you. But, does all of that, funnel down to the fighters and pro wrestlers? It could be better. It could be better, right? But then once you start focusing on it, and you get a movie role or, things
Right.
outside, that's when the career in terms of combat sports starts to take a hit. But financially, you're doing good. But
Yeah.
over here, like the hardcore MMA fan base, they turn against you.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Even like bare knuckle, bare
Yeah.
knuckle MMA now. There's karate combat. I think Leona Machida,
Yeah.
he trains at Fusion at my gym, and he is not. I don't know what is going on with Bellator, but
Right.
that's the cool thing about it. Like he's been fighting for a very long time for different promotions, and I believe now that he's in karate combat. So you can continuously make money. I do understand the doing stuff outside of fighting,
Mm-hmm.
and especially being a woman, I've seen other women in the sport
Mm-hmm.
use their, I guess, popularity and social media presence
Mm-hmm.
and all that to make more money outside of it, outside of fighting. But I can really see it take a toll on their fighting. And it makes sense because they can't put that 100% into fighting anymore. They have to put it into their next photo shoot or their next movie role that they're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, yeah, I would like to do too eventually. But I want to get a belt first and defend it and be a real champion first.
I like it. You got your priorities set. And here's a pro tip: she can't hurt you if she can't reach you. I mean, through the wonderment of technology, she could probably reach you pretty fine, and spin kick me. So, and if she's in America, talks back from Asia. If she runs to Asia, go ahead and jump to England. If she comes to visit the Queen, you bum rush to Norway. Thank you for calling me my bum. And always talk smack from the safety of another landmass. No, that's words to live by, Goro. You killer. And to bring up kind of your one of the endeavors that you're into, you are a entrepreneur. So in that vein, AJ East Los Perros wants to know what kind of weed does Cat smoke, vape, or what?
No, I like flower and I like to smoke out of paper for now. I try to be as natural as possible. I'm trying to get into more edibles too. Um, and I actually have an infused cannabis infused chef sponsor down here. He's living in Miami right now. It's called I Transcend Foods, and he makes me like Italian dressings, infused oils and stuff like that. But I like um, I like sativas just because I like to smoke before I do stuff. Like even
Mhm.
I like to smoke before I train, and I don't know. I just feel like a superhero.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's kind of crazy. Well, I'll get to that, but will she jump me walking to my car for work for $500 and a box of juicy fruit candies? Also, I can skip work. I'll take a beat down so he can miss
I mean,
work. So
if he
that's a
wants to take
proposition.
it, if he wants to take the beating and give me the money, I'm all for it.
Show me the money, right?
I don't need the juice box though.
It might be an ad. You know what? It could be a cannabis infused juice box. You don't know.
Okay, if it's infused, then I might take a sip.
There you go. There you go. And on a serious note, Kat, if you want to explode in popularity, you have to seem off your hinges in interviews. Say what you want about opponents. Like I know some people believe that the Earth is flat. Tonight, I'm going to flatten your face. Hence, where's the name Pen? Ooh, ouch. Yeah, that got
Um,
weird.
you
It got
know,
weird.
a lot of people have told me that I need to be more aggressive or out there, and I feel like I'm just not that type of person. I like to stay true to myself, and I like to be genuine. And I feel like I show that aggression, and I show all those things that I would like to say, but I don't. I keep it to myself. I really show it in my fighting. Like, you can see that I am a totally different person when I fight. I turn into an aggressive monster. But yeah, I think there is you can find um war and peace too, and I'm a very peaceful person outside of fighting, and even up to warming up right before I go out and make the walk to the cage. Like, I'm in the zone, I'm focused, and I'm ready to kill.
No, 100%. Now he says, just snarl like the Ultimate Warrior. Are you familiar with the Ultimate Warrior?
No.
He's a wrestler of like the 80s and 90s who's jacked up to like on every anabolic whatever that ever existed, and he would run to the ring with like tassels and face paint and what have you. And I mean, he would gas himself out before he even hit the
Oh my
ring.
gosh.
Yeah, but he would do promos like Ultimate Warriors and whatever, and talk about. I think there was this one where he was doing like, I think he was in a match with Hulk Hogan, and he was talking about literally getting in a plane and attacking both the pilot and the co-pilot and whatever, and then smashing them together, and then the plane, obviously pre 9/11, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
taking the plane down, surviving it, and kicking Hogan's ass. And then the snarl that he's talking about, it sounded like he had super congestion, which he probably did because of all the probably the supplements that he was taking, right?
Yeah.
But he would go at the end of his promos. So
It kind of sounds like Darth Vader a little bit.
it does. It does, and it sounded like 50 reels of cocaine he did before coming out. That might be true. It might not be true. I'm going to plead the fifth. Um,
Yeah, there's no way I can do that before
yeah,
before I come out.
yeah. There's testing. There's testing that pro wrestling doesn't have. So there's that. Now, in terms of you were just mentioning, right? Like the fact that we can openly, freely talk about, like your business, right? Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
cannabis, driven business and what have you. And, you know, we live in a world where not too long ago, one of the Diaz brothers got a 5-year suspension, for basically testing positive. Matt Riddle, same thing, right? And he's killing it in the WWE, but, the UFC pretty much like kicked him out because of a marijuana fine. And then here we
Yeah.
go. It was just like 5 years later. And it's the UFC is actually doing studies. They're working with I can't remember who, but they're working with somebody to actually not just like weed and kind of infuse stuff or CBD, but also I think it's Ian McCall, but they're working with Ian McCall for psychedelics as well, which is like a complete 180 from even 5 years ago.
Right. So when when I had my party phase that I told you about, I used to do um stuff like what the Ultimate Warrior
Warrior did
used to
100%.
do. All the bad stuff, drinking, mixing pills and all that. And then obviously that's not good for you. And I realized that, and that's why I needed that whole lifestyle change. But, I also turned towards marijuana first, which helped me because I actually was smoking cigarettes. And so the weed has helped me a lot. And also I got into psychedelics, and that it just showed me that there are so many things in life that we worry about that really, like, we shouldn't even put that much attention towards. Like, there are more important things. And I guess that's the outside external world versus the internal world with yourself. And it really helped me heal a lot. So I'm all for psychedelics and marijuana, shrooms. You know,
Yeah.
it's a lot more natural, and I
Right.
feel like everyone should definitely try it at least once because it helps give a different perspective on the world. Like once you have that experience.
No, absolutely. And it's crazy because I mean, it's the fact that we can openly talk about it. And I was one, again, I'm half black, half Fijian, growing up in Inglewood,
Uh,
and the je ne sais quoi of like. So I didn't dabble into any of that stuff, and then now like everybody's doing it, and I almost feel like I missed the boat to an extent, right? Trying to be like the goody two shoes and whatever, but Real Sports did a whole kind of segment with Ian McCall where he took guys like Chris Lieben and I mean definitely I think Dean Lister, Chris Lieben. I don't want to like I know Dean Lister for sure. But basically took them to do heroes doses, and it wasn't just in MMA and combat sports, but also
mhm.
hockey and football players and what have you.
Right,
Because again, the CTE,
right.
there was an instance, in pro wrestling of Chris Benoit where he basically murdered his wife, his kid, and then committed suicide, right? And not justifying any of it, right? But when his father had the foresight to like, hey, let's study his brain, and it turns out, and even a pro wrestler where most people think it's predetermined or fake or what have you, but
Yeah,
they're on the road, how many like 265 days out of the year, different countries, across the one end of the country to the other. But it was found out that he actually had the brain. This is a 38-year-old male, right, in peak physical condition, and he had the brain activity of a 70-year-old Alzheimer's ridden
oh
female,
wow. Oh wow.
right? So
Yeah,
with that all being said, where psychedelics will rewire the brain,
yeah.
obviously I can't speak. I'm not an expert in it, but there have been instances where it worked, and even the fact that like weed, I mean, I hope I'm not speaking out of school, but chances are the Constitution that everybody wants to go back to, at least here in this country, was written on hemp paper. Otherwise it wouldn't withstand the test of time, right? And the whole, the Hearst family and the reefer madness, because not only did the Hearst family control, the newspapers and the media, but they also, William Randolph Hearst owned a slew of paper mills, right? And hemp was killing his business. So he has the media and he has timber mills, and he's just like, let me do that. And like literally go to the gusto of your worst fears. Like, oh, people of color are gonna rape your wife and all that jazz. And that's how we are. I mean, how we've kind of lived for the last like maybe about 50, 60 years, and then we're kind of coming back around.
Yeah, there's a lot of politics and a lot of shady stuff behind all that and big pharma and all
Yeah.
that. Um, but yeah, it's pretty cool knowing that they're trying to come into combat sports or contact sports
Yeah.
too to help with trauma, especially to the brain. I know what I've experienced is people around me that suffer from depression and anxiety. It's really helped them because, like I said, it really shows you the external world and in the internal. It makes you realize a lot, and it can completely change your lifestyle just from having one experience on psychedelics. Um, and also, I have a military family, and
Hmm.
I'm around a lot of people that have been in the military, and just like fighting here and training for a fight, they're wired to be a certain way to pretty much, kill the enemy. Depending on what they do in the military. My dad was a medic. I have a chiropractor that was a medic. My boyfriend was a grunt, so he actually like went out there and
Right.
saw people exploding and stuff like that. And it's like it's hard to come back to civilization and try to live a normal life when you weren't groomed to,
Yeah.
and you're coming from war pretty much. And I know that marijuana, psychedelics,
Yeah.
and all that have definitely helped people like that, because a lot of them are mostly, I mean, anxious for the most part, paranoid,
Right.
and it helps. I don't know either what the scientific terms or anything, but I know
Right.
that it helps a lot with calming the nerves and just helping open the third eye and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
No,
So,
100%. And AG Isla Sparrow says that she planned to fight in Cali and get the good flowers. Oh, yeah, we're
um,
thinking about it, right?
even if I don't fight in Cali, I'm planning to come and get the good flowers.
There you go. There you
And
go.
good food. I love eating, and I know that I follow this page on Instagram that it shows just food in restaurants in California only, and I want to
Hmm.
go so bad.
Oh no, the 100%. Like, I mean, obviously the pandemic hit, rent is high, cost of living is high, and my wife
Yeah.
is looking at me, and like, let's go to Vegas, and because her brother's out there, like he went, he was living in a part of LA and paying super like crazy rent and whatever, almost bankrupt. Like I think he did file for bankruptcy, and then he moves to Vegas, and within 5 years, him and his significant other and their kids, like they have two houses and all that. So she's looking at that, and I was just like, nah, man, like, nah. And there's nothing like LA. Nothing against any
Yeah.
other place in the world, right? Places have nightlife and whatever, but like, I mean, I went to Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, a hybrid MMA pro wrestling event, right, with no
Uh-huh.
ropes on the ring, and then I went backstage, and there's Glenn Danzig of Danzig and the Misfits, and he takes us to the Rainbow Bar and Grill, like the famous place where like every rock star has spent time in since like the 1950s and 60s, and like where else does that happen?
Yeah, not here in Orlando. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
So that was that event that you're talking about, was it this past weekend?
Yeah, on Saturday. I was. It was actually Friday. Friday.
Okay, I think I don't Marina
Marina Shafir. Yep, she was on it.
Okay, so yeah, she trains with me too.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so we train together, and she's a pretty good training partner for me. She's very strong, and yeah, she pushes me and she challenges me.
Yeah, 100%. She was a celebrated martial artist. I believe it was. Yeah, it was judo because she.
Judo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because she's a part of the four horsewomen of MMA. That includes Jessamine Duke. Obviously Marina. Shayna Baszler, who's killing it in the WWE right now, and one Ronda Rousey,
Mhm.
right? So, to be in that crew, and they were like living on the beach, before all of them had significant others or whatever, living
Yeah.
in Venice, living that beach life, but also beating the tar out of each other and then everybody else that stepped in their way,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why like I just feel so blessed and grateful to have found my gym, because I've list only what two people, Leona Machida and Marina Shafir, and you've seen them. I'm sure you've seen Leona Machida, and now you've seen Marina live.
Yeah.
It is wrestling, but when we're in the gym, she does the same thing. She kicks people's butts. So even the
Mhm.
guys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
yeah, and there's a lot more talent in my gym that you know it, we're starting to explode,
yeah.
and I feel like I'm one of the amateurs that is really helping lead the way for the amateurs and eventually going pro. But it's cool to be an amateur at the the level that I'm at with social media, just because that's a big thing with
Right.
marketing yourself and all that. the networking that I've done and just the exposure that I'm getting. Like, there's so many people that want me on their cards and promotions and all this stuff, and I'm not even getting paid yet.
Right.
So yeah, it's just cool to kind of be in there and be surrounded by all these people and also make a name for myself as well.
No, 100%. And it's something like I know certain people in the media, they don't want to, maybe cover the amateurs or think it might be lowbrow and what have you.
Yeah.
First off, the action isn't lowbrow. Uh, they, if it's your first fight, depending on the commission, you might have shin guards or,
Yeah.
what have you. But it's still like you get like I'm of a certain age. I saw Mike Tyson knocking fools out in ESPN Friday Night Fights as an amateur. Like
Yeah.
that happens. And also a lot of the amateurs, especially here in California, that were kind of trudging away and nobody wanted to pay attention to them over the last 5 years. There are, I mean, it's actually crazy. An amateur fight here in California, there was actually two now professional wrestlers in I think in the WWE. Her name is Sonya Deville, and she's a
Mhm.
major part of their Friday night show. And then Shylar Andrews, who's a part of AEW that's based in I believe it's Jacksonville. But they both fought on the same amateur MMA card. They all train MMA, and again, most people don't think the two worlds are closely related, but they're kind of cousins of each
Oh,
other
there
because,
definitely are. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like 100 years ago, right? Pro wrestling was something that you would see maybe at a Fight to Win or an EBI, right?
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of like nothing against it, but it's the showman aspect of it. But if you
Right.
notice in pop culture, right, anybody who has taken a pro wrestling approach, whether it the Muhammad Ali, the Mike Tyson didn't, he wasn't known for his promos or interviews or what have you, but he that aura, that towel that he had, wet in his hair, just the way that he built himself up is very pro wrestling in terms of presentation. So you don't have to be the whatever. You can be the silent assassin and what have you. And even just like Marina, and her husband, who's also in pro wrestling,
Right.
Roderick Strong, but they both employ a very MMA based, pro
Mhm.
wrestling kind of persona. So with that all being said, the more you meld them, the people that have been able to massively meld the two worlds together over the course of the last 40 years have kind of transcended the sport. I mean, Conor McGregor is doing Vince McMahon and a bit of Ric Flair. So,
Right. Yeah. Yes, I look up to Conor McGregor just because of, people think he's um a loser now and just whatever, but he's an intelligent man. He used the UFC to get so many other things outside of the UFC. And that's what a lot of fighters are realizing and doing. Just
mhm.
because when you're on a platform like the UFC, you have the potential of the whole world seeing you. And yeah, so I just need to get there. But I definitely see myself, I don't want to say I want to do it for the money, but I do. And I want to continue to enjoy it as well. And I think I will. And I think this is definitely what I'm cut out for. I think I can become very popular and famous if you're
Yeah,
willing to get to that point. Um, I think I can definitely handle it, and I would like to. And I think I carry all the traits to do so. I feel like I'm young. I'm very vibrant and full of life.
right,
I feel like I'm attractive. I can speak well,
right.
and I can fight. That's the important thing is that I can fight.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
In terms of the eating out here in LA, AG East Los Perros says, I suggest Oaxacan food, pupusas, ramen, and pho. So we got, yeah, like we've got Mexican, Oaxacan food, pupusas, which is South American.
okay,
And then we got ramen, obviously Japanese, and pho, Vietnamese, which by the way, I mean, kind of where I'm at. I live
Yeah.
5 minutes away from a lot of the top rated
Both
places.
places.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Oh,
civil.
I definitely have to try because I'm not because I'm half Asian, but I love Asian food. It's just my favorite.
Yeah,
I just love it, and I'm down to try any type of Asian food. I love ramen. I love pho. I love hot pot,
yeah,
barbecue, all those things. And that's the thing about it though is that they're a lot of them are all you can eat, and you can continuously. Oh, sorry, the lights went out.
it's all right. We can still hear you.
But yeah, let me see if I can fix it.
Now, oh, there you go.
All right, can you see me?
Yeah, absolutely.
The good light went out.
Oh,
Darn. But that's
nah,
okay.
this look great.
But yeah, I actually have been talking to a photographer, or just like a producer, a videographer, whatever you want to call him. He wants to do something with me, kind of like a docu series, maybe on YouTube.
Yeah,
And we've decided that, well, I've decided what I want to do, and I want to go around and do food challenges
yes.
at like different restaurants, and I've already been looking up some. So stay tuned for that, people that are watching. It'll be on YouTube for the most part. And during my fight camps, I might not be able to do it as much,
Right.
but I'm definitely like right now. I'm definitely gonna take advantage and do stuff like that, and that'll help put myself out there as well.
Right.
The more content I have, the more I'm seen.
No, and that's actually one of the reasons why I kind of asked you to be gone because like there are so yes, you might not partake in pro wrestling and what have you, but here's one thing with about like pro wrestlers, you don't, especially in the social media age, you don't have to tell them to have a presence on every platform, right?
Right.
You don't have to tell them to set up a merch store, right? Or and a direct and publishing content, right? But fighters, they're like, I'm just on Instagram, I'm just on Facebook, or they'll just go like, I'm fuck Facebook, fuck Twitter, and I'm like, that's where Ed Suarez and Dana White and Sean Shelby are looking at.
Right.
You just, and then there's a whole litany, like millions of fans that are on one platform or the other, and you
Right.
just pissed off everyone because you said that their platform is lowbrow. So they're not going to follow you over to Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. They're gonna stay into whatever they are. Hell, they might not even have social media. They may have Reddit or 4chan, and that's where they stay. Well, you need to have a presence there. My goodness.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
That's one thing you've done pretty well. Like nobody had to tell you. You're on everything, and your T-shirts are awesome. It's not
Thank
just
you.
sponsor, 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 and the ugliest thing, whatever. That if away from the fight, none of your fans and family would be able to rock.
Yeah.
Yours are awesome. Like I could see that in stores, in the mall, Hot Topic and Old Navy, and that's one thing that you've done pretty masterfully. So kudos to you, Mademoiselle.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my sponsors as well. His graphics bar, and I'm very grateful for all my sponsors now because like I said, I don't get paid yet,
Mhm.
and it's hard to, I train for free
Mhm.
and I fight for free,
Yeah.
but training, maintaining my weight, the weight cut, traveling to the fight, even the small stuff like getting my hair braided, all of that
Yeah.
costs money. So by having this merch, by having these sponsors take care of me, and whether it's with monetarily or endorsements,
Right.
it means a lot. And yeah.
No, I love it. No, and I appreciate you being so open and honest with it because people will just see it Instagram, 10 plus thousand,
Oh yeah.
followers, and
Yeah, I
what.
was gonna say I do have I do have pretty much an account on every platform,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't say that I use them because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think I'm definitely most active on Instagram just
Right.
because I love to share my pictures.
Yeah.
And I love to take pictures. I like to do a lot of modeling stuff. I like to do a lot of competitions and share with people and let them see what's going on. And yeah, but you guys can follow me anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But Instagram is where I'm most active.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, yeah, I might have tagged the Twitter on this very deal. So I
Okay,
mean,
good.
that's the thing that I've even learned through, and we're kind of talking off air. It was a couple of my friends that had podcasts that encouraged me to do this. So everything that I found along the way, I'm like free flowing with information. Like for me, like I basically post, like I think I had maybe 12 Twitter followers, and one was my mom, who's been deceased since 2013, right? And with that all being said, I think I'm like at a little over 600, right? But it's
Nice.
just that same picture, that same, like my page is all. I'm sorry, I'm not maybe aesthetically appeasing to some, so it's just podcasts and dumb shit memes. Not offensive,
I've seen
right?
it.
Yes, absolutely. So with that all being said, the same content that I post to Instagram and to the story, I'm not one who digs the story, like the flashing lights and trying to hold it down and whatever. I've got my fingers are too big, and it just might make me dizzy and pee myself. But
Yeah.
it's a necessary, not evil. It's a necessary thing to do. So I do it. But the same picture, whatever, I'll post to Twitter, post to Instagram story, take it over to the Facebook page, post it on the According to Woods page, the personal page, and the story, and then I leave it. I,
Yeah.
I walk the fuck away.
Yeah, I feel like I can do that. I could do more of that,
Yeah.
and I want to, but I also feel like I'm just going to end up hiring someone to do that for me eventually.
You and me both. You and me
Yeah.
both. Like I love this, right? But
Hmm.
you remember the whole kind of like the riot act and whatever. And it's like, what time? East Coast, West Coast, blah blah
Yeah.
blah, whatever the hell. You
Yeah.
log into Chrome, da da da. I hate that. The
Right.
moment that I can get like a young Jamie like Rogan has, fuck yeah, I'm doing that.
It's all
Fuck
set up for you.
yeah, no, and that's the thing. That this is a live podcast because I hate editing. So you
Yeah.
just kind of have to figure it out. And even the fact that you do have an eye out to what could possibly grow your brand because you are your own brand, and that's the worst thing. Like if you start to ascend in your career, and then somebody took cat lights out Nelson on a particular social media, and now you don't have it, and you got to buy it back or have to change your entire premise. Like
Right.
that sucks.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, my name was Catnoy11 before I got my nickname. And I actually just recently got that. I don't know if you know, but it was my fight in March.
Okay, do tell the story.
All right. So it was a 45-second fight. Um, and by the way, I just want to say after my first loss and my first MMA fight was my first loss, I didn't take any damage that fight. I actually beat her up a lot more than she beat me up, but I lost because she held me against the cage.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she had a game plan and she used it and it worked. It was split decision, and I was just so frustrated with myself, and I told myself from now on, I am not going to leave it to the judges. Excuse me,
Yeah.
and that's what I've been doing. And so this fight in particular, um, I knew from the first exchange that I was gonna win, and I don't know if it was just my experience compared to her inexperience. And I don't try to overlook my opponents, but I do know that I train with some of the best fighters in the world, and I have trained with Valentina Shevchenko and people
Yes.
like that. And so I'm very confident going into my fights, but I ended up knocking her out. And at the same time, while she was falling, the lights went out in the whole venue. So that's why my name is Lights Out. And yeah, that's
That
my
is
name now.
that is amazing, and I think it precedes you because you said your good light, kind of went off during the
I know. That's what I was
yes,
thinking too. I was like, Lights Out.
and also I don't know if you know, but one of the major it's crazy because I don't think they're regional anymore because they're on Fubo TV and then formerly on Fox Sports West. But Lights Out Extreme Fighting is a promotion out here, and we're gonna have a pretty big fight this Saturday, actually, October 30th, and it's going to be headlined by the bantamweight champion of Lights Out, Bellator and UFC alumnus Albert the
Cool.
Belizean Warrior Morales against Victor Henry, like Josh Barnett's right hand man, and they're duking it out. But again, that comes from Sean Lights Out Merriman of the NFL, who's a part owner in it. So I think I might put in a call to some folks to have Lights Out Nuts and go ahead and fight for Lights Out Extreme Fighting.
That would be really cool. That would be very cool, and they can look me up and decide if they'd like me on there or not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's
And
hear.
I mean, I would like to make the transition to pro very soon.
Right.
My last fight, it's not up anywhere yet because it literally just happened, but my coaches really wanted me to be patient and pick my shots and look like a professional fighter, not an amateur fighter anymore. And I wanted to show them that, and I did, and I still was able to finish my opponent in the second round. And that's how I know that this is what I chose to do. This is what I've been putting my time towards the past 3 years, and I'm think I'm ready to make the switch or the level change.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would love to get more experience
Right.
if it comes to me, just because I'm that type of person that I don't like to rush things, and I believe everything happens for a reason. So if I'm able to get another amateur fight, maybe defend one of my belts, maybe defend both of
Yeah.
them for the different promotions, um, I'm down. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely ready to put on a show for the pros.
I love it. Which I want to. So here in California, we kind of have like obviously amateur promotions all throughout Southern California, Central and Northern California. But the individual promotions, they'll have their own promotional title, right? But then once you reach a certain echelon, you have fight for the state championship and the California state championship on a on whatever weight class that you're in. That's usually the tipping of the hat where, like, if you fight and win, that's kind of your graduation, that's your
Yeah,
diploma to go pro. And I mean, it's nobody says that, but that's it. But also it's kind of vital to you know it's a catch 22 because you don't want to take too much damage as an amateur,
right,
not making any money. But then
right.
the other thing about it is once you go to pro, you can't go back to amateur. That's it.
Right. Yeah. And I've had a lot of offers like Muay Thai fights and other just going back to kickboxing fights and all that. And I already know that I excel in my striking. And so that's why I've been rejecting those opportunities, even though
Right.
I'd love to take them. I'd love to get as much experience as possible. But I'm trying to be an MMA fighter, and I need to I train to fight MMA, and I want to fight MMA. And so I've just been taking MMA fights for now, and I'm going to continue doing that. And I'm also trying to get more grappling competitions, and just, I practice makes perfect, and putting myself in the competition scenario as much as possible keeps me ready for my fights.
I love it. That's a great, because you want to be an all around fighter and you want longevity, and that's the
Right.
Get 22 where like a lot of guys and girls are like, I want to make it to the UFC, and I can't even remember who. Oh, it was Jimmy the Brick Flick, right? Jimmy the Brick Flick, who won the LFA, I believe flyweight title, was on the Contender Series. He had like 90-second submissions, just like, and he hit it the same way in 90 seconds, right? Won a
Yeah.
title, one fight in the UFC, one fight in Contender and one fight in the UFC. But once he got there, he was just like, this isn't for me,
Right.
and it's awesome to kind of figure that out and whatever. But like, you also want to know that if you do want to be in the UFC, it's not just being in the UFC. You want to make an impact. You want to eventually become champion, and those are two different things.
Right. I don't just want to make it and fight and be one of, I guess, a regular fighter. I definitely want to be different. Um, I want to be different, and I think I have the like I said, I think I have all the characteristics and the personality and everything to be that. I don't want to say the next Ronda Rousey. I want to say the one and only Kat Nelson. But Ronda Rousey has kind of paved that way. Conor McGregor of that superstar, but also fighter, badass fighter. Ronda Rousey is just obviously a woman, and I'm a woman, and you can be sexy and badass at the same time, and all the things that she's done from becoming big in the UFC. Um, that's it's nice to it's nice to think about it, and maybe I can do that one day with my life. And
Yeah, I mean, I believe you're off to a good start. Because I don't know if you know, but like your social media following are even bigger than some of the pros. I mean, the pros that fought in the UFC. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he had a pretty good fight. He
yeah,
has maybe about 2,800 followers, right? And doesn't post a lot of content. Where you're, as an amateur, is 10.2 some odd. So that, I mean, I think you're off to a good start, and that's it. To be kind of astute in the different aspects, whether it be and that's one of the reasons why I do this, is because I've seen guys and girls that either I admired from afar or that I interviewed, on a local level, and know them, know their families, their significant others, and whatever. And then when they get the call to the big show and the red light goes on, they
yeah,
right.
yeah,
So I was just like, how can I help? Obviously, I love it, but how can I help? Right. And this is kind of my love letter to combat sports. It's really the only thing I ever love. Like, I don't know about movies and politics and maybe a little bit about music, but this is it. So if I can kind of contribute that way to kind of usher in, just like your coaches over that Excel, which you said you want to excel in the sport. I see what you did there. Excel. Nice. You're so punny. So punny. But
no,
that's a real way that somebody that is a no stripe white belt in jiu-jitsu, that can help.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you for that. And no, yeah. The in my gym, like they definitely keep me humble. And because there are times that I get overconfident, I'm a double
Yeah.
champ and I'm beating all the girls that I'm fighting, and then I go to my gym and I get my ass beat,
Yeah.
and that's just how it is, and it keeps me at bay, and I know that things take time, but I do know that with the whole social media presence, that can also help excel excel
Yeah. Huh?
my career, and I've seen it, and I like to think of like Ryan Garcia, for example. Like
Uh,
he's an attractive young man, and he's using social media. He
uh,
barely fights, and when he does, it's like against really good fighters.
yeah.
He's got a sponsorship with Gymshark, and he's being smart about it, and that's just kind of what I'm trying to do. That's I'm trying to do it, but for Cat Lights Out Nelson.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's awesome because before Ryan Garcia, before Muhammad Ali, what have you, before Ronda Rousey, there wasn't that. So
Yeah,
everybody has to be a trendsetter.
right.
For the next kind of generation to go. I mean, like I said, look at Shayna Baszler, right? Who it was, I mean, one of the pioneers for even before Ronda, in terms of women's MMA. What that's how she knows. Ronda is they were on the Ultimate Fighter, but Ronda was the coach, even though Shayna was the veteran, right?
Right,
But
yeah.
Shayna wasn't making a lot of money being a veteran. It's a very much like pro wrestling. Well, women's wrestling, of the past century up until maybe about 15 years ago was all about like it would like dwarfs and women. They were grouped the same, but
Yeah.
now that women's, especially combat sports, are allowed to basically take the stage when people are going to their cars or they turn off the pay-per-view or the stream or whatever. If there's a woman's fight on the card, chances are that's the one that people are going to be remembering. No matter how many championships, no matter how many fans, no matter what have you, because women's MMA is very much the same as men's were in the early 90s.
Yeah, and speaking of like being paid, sorry, I hear my oven going off and I don't know why. Speaking of like being paid and finances and stuff, like I also believe that the whole social media presence, um, and just doing what I'm doing, like we've been talking about, is going to help as well
Yeah,
because Amanda Nunes is a double champ for one promotion and has defended her title a few times already
yeah.
and still is not getting paid as much as Ronda Rousey did. Just because, Ronda Rousey was so much more marketable. And it's
Hmm.
nothing against Amanda Nunes and her skills. She's a great fighter, and maybe I'll have to fight her one day. But, that's just how it works. It's sports entertainment.
Yes.
And I understand that, and that's the route I'm going.
No, I love it because I mean, total disclosure. Before I started the podcast, before the pandemic, for the last 2 years, like I was actually doing Uber, and I remember like picking people up from Endeavor, which is UFC's parent company now,
Uh-huh.
right in the middle of Century City, literally not less than 3 miles from the heart of West Hollywood, right, and people would hear me talk, and they're like, are you an actor? And I was like, no, I'm a, like a combat sports, interviewer. And they were like,
Yeah.
what's combat sports? And I was like, like MMA, UFC. And they're like, what is that? And I was like, it was kind of stark. People who work within the parent company don't even know about it. Not one near email. It just goes right over their head. And the fact that, I mean, Endeavor's corporate office is only maybe, I would even say it's not even 3 miles away. I would say a mile and a half away from West Hollywood. And Amanda Nunes is your double champion, right?
Mhm.
An openly lesbian female, right? Her whose wife is also in your promotion. I would have, like Rogan said it, I would have like billboards all over West Hollywood about
Yeah.
Amanda Nunes.
Yeah.
But the connect and that fight that she had with Ronda, they were actually like betting against Amanda, who,
Yeah.
I mean, literally choked out the legend that is Misha Tate,
Yeah.
to win the title. So it's wild. But again, that's why I'm so. And you're kind of like the last of a particular breed where you grew up in Taekwondo and what have
Mhm.
you. But there's kids coming up that are just training MMA, right?
Yeah, there is, and youth MMA is actually a big thing now too. So the beeping
Yeah.
is
No,
that beeping is coming from your side, I think.
is it? That might be my kid. Owen, Shut your face.
I
There
mean,
you go.
it's okay. I just
No, no,
thought it
no,
was
no.
my oven. I was like, why
No.
is my oven on?
I'm sorry. That's my kid and probably Roblox or
It's
whatever.
all good.
Yeah. But speaking of all good, I mean, I can't thank you enough for doing this, but also, I mean, as a double champion in two different promotions and, you know, uh, seemingly, on your way to becoming one of the most elite combat sports athlete, male or female, that has ever lived, there have been a lot of people that have contributed to your success, both personally and professionally. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Well, my striking coach, his name's Mike Screw. He has been with me since like the beginning, the very beginning, like the cardio kickboxing and boxing, where I didn't even know if I wanted to really fight or not. He definitely helped me. And, when you start fighting, it's weird. Like, you're not used to getting hit. You're not used to hitting someone, but mostly you're not used to getting hit.
Yeah.
And he's been with me since, like, literally the baby steps. And then I met Julian Williams, which is my MMA coach. And like I said, that I have a background in Taekwondo. And with my striking coach, he's more of like a Muay Thai Dutch kickboxer type of guy. And I went into an MMA gym with no grappling experience, no jujitsu. And he has, he's made me, helped me get my blue belt. I've had a few grappling and jujitsu competitions where I've been successful in, and it's funny because nobody has really seen my grappling yet, and I kind of don't want that to happen until like I'm in the UFC. I'm just gonna try to. I mean, it's gonna be there if I need it, but I'm gonna try to use what I'm really good at, which is striking, to win my fights for now. So that's Julian Williams, and then I guess all my sponsors that have helped me. Graphics Bar, who makes my shirts, the I Transcend Foods, he makes my infused um, oils that I put in my coffee, my Italian dressing, edibles. Um, New Dimensions Wellness, which is a wellness facility that I go to, and I do a lot of mobility work and recovery that has definitely helped with fighting, for example, generating and developing that knockout power. It doesn't just come from, you know, lifting lifting a bunch of weights. It comes from how mobile you are, and it comes from when you learn that all your power comes from the bottom up. Like
Right.
it makes a big difference. The Josh Saman Foundation. It's a foundation with Combat Night MMA, which is
Yeah.
I'm a featherweight champ for them, and they just try to help fighters, especially the fighters like me who are actually, making an effort to go big. They help out a lot and send funds when we need it. um, and my chiropractor, his name is Dr. Nate, top tier chiropractic performance in Central Florida. He's been helping me tremendously. He adjusts me and gives me like a evaluation every week on my body, and that's helped out a lot. And it just shows that there are people that want to put time and invest their time into me, and I know that I'm doing something right. Um, because of that, and my fans, of course, I'm growing every single day, every single fight. Like I get more followers, I have crazy messages from fans, and when I fight, I feel the energy from them, and I love putting on a show for them. And the haters, because that comes with the territory. There are people that don't want to see you succeed
Yeah.
and hope that you lose, but I like them too because they're gonna pay to see me lose too.
Yeah.
hopefully, hopefully
Yeah.
I lose for them. And yeah, just when I started fighting, I felt like we have phases in our life, and I'm only 26 years old. And so I started my MMA journey at 23, and there's so much has happened, and I've hit really big strides, and I've come a really long way just in 3 years. And for the people who have been there while I've been coming up, I appreciate you having me on here. And this is exposure for me too, and for you. And that's what this is about. It's about networking and connecting with people and growing.
No, I appreciate you for coming on. And one last deal. AG East Los Pelos says, if you call Sean Merriman, tell him I said Raiders. Oh God, that's not good. That, but also to sign Cat for to fight here in California, which one might negate the other. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
but I also have seen on Sean Merriman's because he's like one of the greatest, like San Diego Chargers players who's ever lived. But
Yeah.
apparently, he also has a minority ownership of the Raiders, so maybe that does get Cat into lights out extreme fighting. And in terms of success rate, right? There's like
Right.
in terms of getting guys and gals to the UFC and Bellator, there have been, several. What's his name? Edmund Shabazian. He was raised right in that kind of. I mean, before it was lights out, it was California Extreme Fighting. He's come from there. Albert Morales, came from the UFC, and once he came back, I think he did maybe one more Bellator, but he basically claimed it's a 135-pound title. Terrion Flash Ware and Jarek Papazian, when Jarek Papazian was kind of leaving the UFC and what have you, coming and fighting a regional scene, he fought Terrion Ware and a lot for a CXF title, the precursors to Lights Out Extreme Fighting. And many people thought whoever won that match was going to get the call to the UFC. Terrion Flash Ware ends up getting that win, but also gets called to the UFC. And I think one of his first or second fights, he's in there with Sugar Sean O'Malley. And look at where Sugar Sean has gone. So it's just fun. So that's what I say. You support local MMA, support amateur MMA, support your local fighter, and that's that, man. But Kat, you are amazing. This is such a joy to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you guys for watching According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Kat, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, you're probably going to do it, right?
I'm definitely going to do it, yes, if I'm not already.
See? So be like Kat. Go ahead and after this one, or I mean, heck, if you're watching this right now on the Tube of Views or the Book of Faces or the Twitter machine or the Gram of Instant Gratification, well, guess what? You probably do it, so go ahead and hit that subscribe and follow button. And we'll see you later with more According to Woods. But if you don't believe me, you don't believe Kat, and I don't know why you wouldn't, here's undefeated fighter and pro wrestler Zeta Zhang to convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe.